College football week 8 is upon us. Dan Rubenstein, it sounds like your voice is back.
Yeah, for better or worse, I'm 93% there, Ty. So this is not a Cam Rising will he, won't he situation. Well, and I guess it technically is. Cam Rising, unfortunately, out for the season. There's something definitive there. My voice is definitively back. So, my God, am I excited for this week of college football.
It's got a little bit of a husk in it. There's a little bit of J-Law going on with that voice.
That's
true.
It
is back. You can at least project now in a way that you couldn't on Saturday
You don't
night,
even know, Ty.
Well, I do know because you have been talking up this nickname that you said you came up with today on a walk.
Yes.
And it happens from time to time through the course of a season where you come up with a nickname and you get excited about it and you're like, do you want to know about it in advance? Do you not want to know about it?
Yeah.
This was one of those instances where you didn't even give me the option.
No.
You're holding this close to the vest like it's a nuclear trade secret. So I eagerly await.
Hey, real quick, it'd be great if you could consider subscribing to the YouTube channel down below. It really helps us out.
We have now developed this routine of giving the Saturday a nickname the way ESPN used to and to some extent still does give
But
nicknames.
they have like 2 nicknames that they'd go to. It's always like Separation Saturday and something else. I don't know.
Show Me Saturday.
Yeah.
They've had that in the past. So we've decided to take more of a creative spin on this endeavor. And it's been a good year for you. You're usually the one coming up with the nicknames. Now would be the time to unveil this thing that you're sitting on.
Okay, so this is the point of the season where, are you familiar with the term earthquake weather?
I am.
Okay, so earthquake weather is for those that have not spent time in earthquake areas or just haven't heard the term. It's like things are a little bit too calm, right? That like, there's no breeze. The sun's out. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. You know, and maybe the birds aren't as loud as maybe they normally are. They're not chirping as loud as they normally are. When I went through this roster of games that we have ahead of us, I sort of calmly made picks for the first time this season, really. I didn't agonize over any of these, really. And I said to myself, yeah, okay, that team's better. I could see them winning by 4.5+ points. Okay. This team's just not good. This team has lost 3 straight in embarrassing fashion. There's no reason for me to believe. There's nothing situationally here. They're not trending in a certain positive direction, even in those losses. And I just said, yeah, I'm going to go with them. Yep, I know they're on the road, but I feel comfortable going with them. Yep, they're at home, and I think they're in a good place. I'm going with them. And then it struck me. My confidence can only mean one thing, Ty.
Snake in the toilet. Snake in the toilet.
It has to be Snake in the Toilet Saturday, does it not, Ty?
Snake in the Toilet Saturday is back.
Snake in the toilet. Snake in the toilet.
That was fully recorded and composed in my office at about 8:44 a.m. Central.
Did you wake up any of the neighbors making that? Did you use an electric guitar making that?
I did not use an electric guitar making that. That is from YouTube's free music library. I had to find the metal riff that I can send you the raw audio of me going snake in and then the toilet. And I treated it with a bunch of different filters and stuff to lower the pitch and add some distortion to it. But yes, I was sitting alone in my house. Maybe neighbors heard me. Maybe they didn't. Snake in. And then it worked out, Ty. I mean, I'm pretty happy with it being a Snake in the Toilet Saturday. It's one of my favorite holidays of the college football season.
Yeah.
Snake in the toilet. Snake in.
Riff there. Little riff there. I like it. Just shredding out on Snake in the Toilet Saturday. We have one a year.
Yes.
Could this be it? It's hard to top what we had a couple weeks ago.
I know.
But I don't disagree. I had a harder time picking these games than you did.
Okay.
And I did find myself agonizing. But to your point, there are a bunch of games that truly, if you're not considering the point spread, if you're not worried about the point spread and who's going to win by how much, there are a bunch of games that you can make a case for the underdog winning. You can make a case for some upsets.
Sure.
And so I hear where you're coming from. I'm curious to see where you're at, if you felt confident about picks this week.
I don't know what it is, Ty. I mean, look, truth be told, the most personal game to me is going to be the Oregon game. And that is the most obvious snake in the toilet situation with Purdue's horrendous season so far. Though they got a spark, as Ryan Brown, I believe, the new freshman quarterback for Purdue, got a spark last week, sent it to overtime against Illinois. And I think 50-49 was the final there.
It was a hell of an offensive showing in the second half for Purdue. By the way, go back and listen to the Tuesday episode. That's where we preview the Oregon game, which is going to be a Friday night job.
Yeah.
On the road in West Lafayette against the Spoilermakers, Dan.
Short week letdown spot for the Ducks after that big win against Ohio State, which, by the way, the internet and college football social media has been impeccable. The Ohio State fans, the Oregon fans, Ohio State with truthering like Jeremiah Smith's arms weren't fully extended on that OPI. Snake in. Or it was just like, here is like the frame of Will Howard sliding where there is still a second left, or the like play 2 plays ago where it was an incomplete pass with 7 seconds instead of 6 seconds left. Like the Zapruder level dedication from Ohio State fans. And then the NCAA rushing to close the Dan Lanning 12-man loophole in 24 hours. Like, oh, they really care now. Can't have Ohio State losing like that. It was all just wonderful.
We didn't really talk much about the 12th man thing because of the news officially coming out that, yes, this was something he did on purpose. And obviously we were so taken by the game when we recorded on Saturday night at midnight that we didn't have a whole lot of chance to get into it. But I was going to ask you, not to run too long in the tooth here with the preamble, your thoughts on your guy Lanning apparently finding this loophole and using it to his advantage.
I'm always for it. Nobody got injured. He didn't trip like an Ohio State player running down the field or something for a touchdown. I have enjoyed the back and forth of people saying like, that's really smart. I don't know what to tell you. That's a really smart move. Not the first time it's happened, by the way, in college football.
Explain for people what happened.
Okay.
For people who aren't aware.
Oregon was hit with 12 men on the field, a 5-yard penalty near the end of the Ohio State game, which moved Ohio State up 5 yards, closer to field goal range, which I think went from 3rd and 25 to 3rd and 20. They got that much closer to getting to, I think they were on, don't quote me on this, they were trying to get to around the 30-yard line to set up a field goal for their kicker. But the problem is it's not a penalty that stops the clock. Right. And so the play that occurred with 12 Oregon defenders on the field, a broken up pass intended for Jeremiah Smith, took 4 seconds off of the clock. And so when Ohio State ran the final play of the game, which was Will Howard scrambling and trying to get down and call a timeout with time left to bring the field goal unit out, it was not enough time for Ohio State to get that off. And the 4 seconds that Oregon was able to drain off the clock by intentionally putting a 12th man on the field to both prevent a big play, to help prevent, it's easier to defend with 12 than 11, was seen as a crucial tactical, stroke of genius by some. I did see fans of Ohio State and fans of like Oregon rivals were like, that's not the spirit of the rule. Meanwhile, like you have guys, intentionally interfering with passes to prevent touchdowns, right? That like, and there are just smart penalties. I don't know. But the NCAA is like, is very quickly trying to close this rule and, give offenses a choice to go back and stop the clock or not.
I'll tell you what my problem with this is.
Yeah.
My problem is I don't believe him.
Oh, because you think, well, it was out of timeout. It was out of a timeout.
No. Here's what I'm saying. If it were me and that happened by accident, I would 100% claim that I intended to do it.
Okay.
100%. 100%. Nobody wants to look stupid.
Right.
Are you kidding me? You want to look like you're the mastermind. I would have absolutely taken responsibility for that.
But I don't think
it's intentional. Make yourself look like you are smarter than the average coach, even if it wasn't intentional. Because it did end up working in their favor.
I don't think there was a plausible defense for that to say it was an accident when it happened out of a timeout. That even if he's saying it's intentional and it was accidental, they lined up the 12th dude exactly where he should have been after they saw Ohio State come up and like come out in a stack formation.
I'm just saying, I've seen Notre Dame come out with 10 men after a timeout. So who's to say you can't do 12?
Maybe Marcus Freeman just has galaxy brain and like someday you'll see.
All right. Well, in, as always, solidverbal@gmail.com. We welcome your feedback on this. You can also comment if you're watching on YouTube or if you're out there on Spotify. Anywhere you can leave a comment for us. We'd love to hear from you here in the Verballerhood, Dan.
Yes.
Should we pick some games?
Let's.
Dan, time, help. I need picks of the week.
It is week 8. It is a snake in the toilet Saturday.
Snake in the toilet. Snake in the toilet.
That's 10 Dan Rubensteins yelling in the toilet, by the way, with the chorus effect in Adobe Audition.
Usually we do this bit at the top with the biggest games in chronological order, but I thought maybe today we would jump around a little bit because obviously the headliner is the Georgia-Texas game.
Yes.
Why don't we start there? At 7:30, it's on ABC. It is the Georgia Bulldogs on the road at the number 1 Texas Longhorns. Texas is favored by 3.5 points. As I look through this game, Dan, let's be real. Texas right now, rightfully the number 1 team in the country. We've said every week how we feel they are among the most trustworthy in college football on both offense and defense, which stands for something
right
in 2024. They have also been the most reliable team in the country at not playing a single solitary offense, Dan.
Yeah, also true.
Have you seen this schedule?
Mm-hmm.
Colorado State, at Michigan, UTSA, Louisiana Monroe, Mississippi State, and Oklahoma. The best offense on that list, per the SP Plus, is Oklahoma, and we know where they're at right now.
And that is even like taking into account like recruiting and last year's results. Like there's a lot at play that goes into SP Plus. That's why I look at points per drive sometimes to see a more isolated. And I know that, previous season results and stuff goes away over the course of the season for SP Plus. But, just in terms of performance, scoring efficiency, Oklahoma's way down there.
Whoever it is,
Yeah.
Take your pick from that list. That is not exactly a loaded roster of offenses.
No.
Okay. And so when I look at our spreadsheet and I see that Texas is the best defense in the country at preventing big explosion plays, I look at that list and I say, does it matter if all of those offenses have already imploded? And that's where Georgia comes in.
Yeah.
That's where Georgia comes in. So my question to you, just as kind of a starting point, is whether or not there is a speed bump effect here. Whether or not, we've talked about this in other games before, a team is going along, they are cruising, and then suddenly they play a team that is a big jump up in competition, maybe with one side of the ball, maybe the whole team.
Right.
Is this something that you see affecting Texas in a way that we have not seen anyone else affect Texas?
No, I just think this is not a Texas team fresh on this. Like Texas is not Indiana. Indiana, there's still like a mysterious element to like what Indiana can do against a top tier team, just because new coach, new quarterback, new Indiana. Let's see what happens eventually. And we're going to get to Indiana, Nebraska, and that's going to pose a new challenge for the Hoosiers. But Texas made the playoff last year. Texas destroyed Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game last year. Texas passed a number of Texas won at Alabama last year. Same coach, same quarterback. Like there's a continuity element to Texas that I think you can believe in more than other schools in this spot. So even without having faced an offense, because of what's on their defense, because of what's on their own offense and the defenses, or lack thereof, mostly, the Michigan defense still has a lot of talent. I think we can buy into what Texas is selling in this moment pretty significantly.
Georgia is a top 10 offense, though. And I wanted to unpack it a little bit when I was going through and doing my prep.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I think we know already through the midway point now is that it's not the same offense as it was a year ago.
No.
Obviously some different personnel, right? But as I unpack the numbers, I think the easiest way to explain what is different about Georgia is to look at what they're doing and when they're doing it. So Georgia, last couple seasons, 5 seasons running now, Georgia's been the team that could just beat your brains in on the ground if they wanted to. They went like 3 deep at running back. Compared to last year, their success rates as a rushing offense are down somewhat considerably. It's not a train wreck. I'm not implying that, but they're down. And I do think it's had a bit of a domino effect. So what happens next? Where do you look next? I look at standard downs. What are standard downs? Standard downs are first downs, are second down and 7 or less, third down and 4 or less, or 4th and 4 or less. So these are like the downs where
just tell me what you see, Ty. You're watching the games. I don't want to get lost in the spreadsheets. Tell me what you see from Georgia.
An offense, shut up. These are the downs where an offense could run or they could pass.
Yeah.
Last year, Georgia on those downs ran it about 56% of the time. This year, that's down to 46%. All right. Now, that's not a huge number, but in reality, that translates to 4 or 5 plays a game. 4 or 5 plays a game where they used to call a run, and now they're calling a pass. And that adds up. So I think it's fair to say, long windup, that there is a lot more pressure being put on the passing game than we are accustomed to seeing for Georgia. If I really wanted to craft the narrative, if I wanted to go a step further with this, I'd say he's already just 1 interception shy of where he was a year ago. I'd say his completion percentage is lower. I'd say his top receivers aren't reliable. His top 2 receivers have a drop rate of about 11%, but that's jumping to conclusions. I don't know if 10% fewer rushing attempts equals this type of stress when it comes to the passing game, but I do think it means there is more pressure on Carson Beck. And so I just wonder if that is something that we see come out more aggressively against a good defense like Texas.
Okay.
Because Texas is a better defense than Georgia has seen this year. And, you know, we could say what we want about Bama. That was not a defensive showdown, right? At least not in the second half.
Sure. I agree. Anything else?
I am not gonna go too hard in that direction, though, of Georgia being in any kind of turmoil offensively. Let's say. Even if it's different, they're still really good. They're still going to score on Texas. I am envisioning a game here where Georgia starts quickly, jumps out to a lead, and then a back and forth ensues. And from that point forward, I do think Texas gets the better of Georgia. I'm really skittish about giving away points, though. I really am. I think this is 34-30 Texas, or 34-31 Texas final answer, let's say.
Okay.
I think it's within that number. I think it's a barn burner. By the way, if this line spikes up to 4, I'll probably throw a few bucks down on Georgia. Probably won't do that at 3.
Okay.
Just actual money bets. But I think that the Georgia offense being far and away better than Texas has seen at all this season. This is not to say they won't handle it. This is not to say they won't win. I think they will win. But I think it's within that number, 34-31.
Let me ask you this. When you look at Georgia and as an isolated product this year, they're a good team. Definitely a good team. Have one of the best wins in the country with the way that they beat Clemson in week 1. At this point, I kind of like to discount week 1 a little bit just because it's everybody sort of feeling things out first attempt at a game. And, you know, Clemson certainly looks like they've improved, and that game wouldn't go in that same manner if they were to play tomorrow. But, you know, maybe it would. Who knows? I think Georgia's really good. I don't think Georgia's great. They're thin at running back in the same way that Texas is thin at running back. I think there's a case to be made that Georgia is kind of a jack of all trades, but a master of none. Like, where are they like supremely strong right now? It doesn't seem like they have a week-to-week go-to receiver or receiving duo. I like Carson Beck a lot. If maybe that's the master. Like, he is one of the best handful of quarterbacks in the country, but he's only as good as his running game. He's only as good as, you know, the best of his receivers or the 5th best receiver that week, whether it's, you know, London Humphreys or whoever, Oscar Delp. And there isn't that go-to situation to me for Georgia. And on defense, I love where they are up the middle with the linebackers and defensive tackles, but I don't believe that they're the same machine, especially in the back of that defense.
Yeah, no.
Dan Jackson's good. It seems like the corners have fallen off a little bit, biting a little bit too often. We saw it last week against Mississippi State, against a freshman quarterback. I mean, I think Jeff Lebby calls a creative offense, but this is a brand new Mississippi State offense. So I just think you need to have everything in order if you're going to go to Austin and beat Texas at this point. And I think there's enough firepower at Texas. I think the defense is strong enough, despite, as you were correct to allude to, they have not played a dangerous offense. Oklahoma, by the way, 111th in the country in points per drive against FBS teams this year. So they're probably not the best offense that Texas has faced.
Okay.
I am just not there with Georgia. I just think Texas is the better team playing at home in a stadium that I'm not crazy about in terms of giving a home field advantage. But if we're going to accept Georgia as a team that looked blown out of the water on the road against Alabama early, that was unable to do anything offensively on the road at Kentucky, and now you're going on the road to take on Texas?
No.
I think we should give Georgia credit for what they are, not give Georgia the credit for what they were. So I'm going Texas 33-24.
Okay. I think that's reasonable. I'd be curious in your analytics, and you don't have to do this right now.
Please.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. I would be curious, though, of these 6 teams that Texas has played on a points per drive level, which of them is the best in the country? I genuinely don't know, right? I'm just going off SP Plus numbers, and that's what it spits out Oklahoma.
Right.
But, the bigger point
Please.
is that none of them are good.
Right.
None of them are good. So that's, sort of beside the point, but I'd be curious to know what kind of a jump that Texas defense is going to look at this week when they're squaring off against Georgia. It'll be interesting.
I think it may be their common opponent in Mississippi State.
Mississippi State? Wow.
Mississippi State is at 79th right now in terms of points per drive.
Still not great, Bob.
Still not great. Michigan is at 80th, so barely edged out by Mississippi State. In terms of points per drive, that's minus garbage time against FBS teams.
All right, let's go to our next game, Dan.
Yes.
You've been talking up this Indiana-Nebraska game. It's a big noon thing, right, on Fox?
It is big noon, yeah. Back to Bloomington?
Yeah, this is a nooner on Fox. It is Nebraska on the road at Indiana. Indiana, 6.5-point favorite. These teams are a combined 11-1 this season, just as we all predicted.
Yeah.
Nebraska has been a great story, but Indiana's been the better story. They're 6-0. They're flying high. You got great numbers on both sides of the ball. We got the coach filled with piss and vinegar, Coach Kurt Signetti.
Yeah.
He has beaten a cacophony of stellar teams so far in FIU, Western Illinois, UCLA, Charlotte, Maryland, and Northwestern.
Yes.
Indiana has pounded those teams.
Yep.
They have left no doubt, but we are now getting to the point in the second half of the schedule where things are going to heat up. That's where Nebraska.
I don't think they've scored only 30 points since the FIU game. It's been 40-plus every week since,
They've
right?
been incredible. They've been very, very solid. So I can sit here and I can quasi make the joke about schedule. I can quasi make the joke about the offenses that Texas has played. But at the end of the day, as we like to say here, winning's a skill.
Winning's a skill.
Winning's a skill. You got to win the games that are in front of you, and you got to perform in some consistent way to instill confidence, which Indiana absolutely has. Last week in our Verballer Top 12 poll, Indiana cracked the top 12. I have seen some folks out there posting their projected playoff brackets in the moment, not necessarily a projection, but Indiana is included in some of those. So to say, at a minimum, that Indiana has been a bit of a surprise team this season, that is a huge understatement. But
sure,
we will find out a lot more about this team now, starting this week and moving forward the rest of the way. Who you got in this one?
I have Indiana. I have Indiana coming off of a bye. Yes, they're both coming off of a bye, but it's Indiana at home coming off of a bye, which I enjoy. The way that Indiana has performed, none of those games, not one of them, has been Indiana was pretty average on offense, but they had a couple pick sixes and a couple short fields here, and it was 42-14, but really that wasn't the true nature of that. No. They had a couple of those picks against Maryland, but then ran away with it. Indiana, to me, is buttoned up. And Nebraska, for all of their winning, of which they have done an impressive amount, all things considered, with a true freshman at quarterback, an impressive one, but all things considered, Nebraska's had some stretches of looking like absolute garbage. They've had stinko stretches is what I wrote down on the legal pad. If you're watching on Spike TV, it's right here. You look at the second half against Rutgers most recently. You look at the first half against Purdue. You look at the second half against Colorado. You look at the second half against Illinois, in a losing effort. That was one touchdown in all of those halves. I think it was the second half against Illinois. And so they just go through these stretches where they can't either figure out who they're playing on defense, or they can't figure out how to adjust and look inward and figure out what should be working more often if they're able to execute. And they're always going to be growing pains with a freshman quarterback. I'm going to use the same logic here that, I don't think Indiana's unbeatable. I don't think Texas is unbeatable. but you got to be buttoned up to a certain extent. And Nebraska is still just in its winning adolescence to me, that they're just not done growing. They have not grown to that point yet. And look, Indiana's not going to finish undefeated, likely. Never say never. But they're likely.
8% chance.
8% chance. So you're saying there's a chance. I think the biggest concern with me with Indiana right now is their ability to quickly and thoroughly figure out Nebraska's defense. It's a tricky 3-3-5. Tony White has them playing well. Opponent-wise, haven't loved all of the offenses, but it's still Illinois and Colorado on that schedule. So I think if Indiana can avoid some costly errors on offense, I think they're balanced enough. They make enough plays. What did I write down here? Final score, 27-17 Hoosiers on a beautiful day. By the way, I looked at weather across the country, almost across the board. It's 70s to 80s and sunny.
Great.
So I don't know. I think Indiana's better, even with the schedule that they've played.
Okay.
Their time is going to come where they're just not as good as whoever they're playing, or it's just a bad situation. I don't know, coming off a bye at home, 73 degrees and sunny in Bloomington against a Nebraska offense that just disappears. Like, I think the right offense can push Indiana around on the ground. I don't think that's Nebraska.
Okay. Well, to keep things within the context of our trusty SP Plus, Nebraska's got the top defense.
Yeah.
In the country per that metric. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think they're good enough on some level to contain the Indiana offense. Indiana is buttoned up, but I do think that this Nebraska offense gives them a different look. To your point, it's a versatile defense that can adapt. They held a pass-heavy Colorado to 10 points. They held a run-heavy Rutgers to 7 points. Indiana is better than both of those.
I agree.
In my opinion. But I'm generally skittish about picking teams in their first real challenge. And I think this is their first real challenge in terms of going up against a pretty good defense. The bigger question for me is actually the Indiana defense, and in particular, one statistical tendency that I picked up, and you're going to have to afford me some time to give this one out there, too.
Okay.
I know you love these, Dan. I'm doing this for you, big guy.
Spreadsheet special?
This is a spreadsheet special. One of the things we talked about with Indiana in the preseason was how bad the pass defense was. Really bad last year. And so they took on a whole bunch of transfers to try and plug gaps, see if it works. So far, it's worked really well. And it's worked to the tune of playing zone 81% of the time.
Right.
So for context, national average is about 63% of the time. Indiana plays the 9th highest rate of zone in all of FBS. That's interesting to me because Indiana may need to break that tendency against Nebraska. Nebraska is 10th nationally in yards per drop back against zone.
Sure.
They're 125th against man coverage. Basically, they're dumping it off every time they see man looks. So I think it'll be interesting to watch that, and people who are going through the film afterwards are going to have to report back. We will get the numbers on our spreadsheet and all that, but
right.
I'm curious to see if there is any sort of adjustment with how Indiana plays against Nebraska, plays against Dylan Raiola in light of that statistic. Don't know. We'll see.
We will see. By the way, that's
curiosity for me.
Including two of the absolute worst Big Ten quarterbacks this season. That's Ethan Kaliak-Manis and Hudson Card throwing into the Nebraska defense.
Yep.
Okay.
I think Indiana wins. I think it's 24-21. I think it's a good game decided by a field goal, so I'm taking the point. 6.5 is your line.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, sorry, excuse me. I was talking about quarterbacks. You're talking about Nebraska throwing into a zone, yes?
Correct.
Some of the defenses that they faced have not been incredible.
Oh, I get it. I get it, dog. All right. Yeah. Let's jump around a little bit more. Let's go to 3:30 on ABC. This is another big one, man. This is the Alabama-Tennessee game, the rivalry.
Yes.
At time of release, at time of listening for some folks out there, you may be able to go out to our social media accounts and see the video that Dan put together on the cigar tradition.
Love it. Yes.
As part of this rivalry. It is Alabama on the road in Neyland Stadium. They are a 3-point road favorite. I talked about this game on Tuesday when I gave my updated bracket projections. So if you caught that, you already know that I've got Bama winning this game. But I do think it's a playoff elimination game. I stand by what I said earlier. I think the SEC gets 4 teams in. And I think this is a matchup that delivers a knockout blow to whoever loses.
Okay.
I almost recoil a little bit, putting everything within the context of the playoff, because I do think there's probably half of our listeners out there who don't give a rip about it.
But everything after the but is what you really mean.
But I care. And we care. And I think this is interesting.
True.
So for me, this is an Ashanti game.
It's about us, it's about trust, babe.
It's about trust, babe.
Okay.
Come on. I have no clue who to trust. That's why it's an Ashanti game. Both teams have underwhelmed me the last couple of weeks. So I turn to you. I will allow you to give your thoughts first. Who do you trust more here and why?
I think I may trust Alabama more, even with the needing a miraculous throw to Ryan Williams to beat Georgia and, the big play on defense at the end, and needing to survive Lenora Sellers, which is a very strange thing to say, two sort of curious throws at the end of that game with an opportunity to win or tie. South Carolina also had the greatest onside kick I've seen. And it was really just a banner day for onside kicks between what'd you say, 3,000 RPM spinner?
It was a 3,000 RPM spinner.
And Oregon kicking it into the spleen of the Ohio State player. Really nice day for onsides. I trust Alabama a little bit more because they score points. And I mistakenly went into the SEC season thinking, well, if nothing else, Tennessee should be able to get after a quarterback and have an angry defensive line and put up some points. And that's a pretty winning combination. Tennessee, in their SEC games, is scoring at the rate of Florida State, Northwestern, UCLA, Temple.
This is not hyperbole, by the way. You look this number up.
Actual number. It's 1.4 points per drive, which is a sub 100 number against Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Florida.
Yeah.
And if you look at this is another team with stinko stretches, full on halves. I wrote down, I'm not going to play Dvorak here, Ty. I wrote down on the Spike TV yellow legal pad. This is what they did. This has been their first half offenses in the SEC. Punt, 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 downs, fumble, punt, 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 interception.
Wow.
That's what you're bringing to an Alabama game? Alabama, a deeply flawed team. That's what you're bringing to this game on offense? This is one of the two things, again, I'll speak for myself, I expected of you to do somewhat well, especially after what they did against NC State, what they were doing early on this season on offense, dropping 50, 60, 70 points, putting up historic offensive efficiency numbers. I don't trust Tennessee. I just don't. You can have an off week. Everybody has an off week. You have an off couple weeks, you're like, man, that's weird. We'll see if they get it figured out.
And that's what concerns me, because it's been 3 games in a row now where they've really struggled.
3 in a row.
Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Florida. I'll say this, if you're not scoring on Arkansas and Florida, it's a stretch for me, and you rightfully pointed this out, it's a stretch for me that you're suddenly going to start scoring on Bama.
Not a perfect Bama team.
It's not a perfect. And again, give a shout out to Bill C and the SP Plus. Per that metric, this is the worst Alabama defense in at least 10 seasons.
Sure.
But they're still top 20, Dan.
Yeah.
Still top 20. So I think eventually Tennessee gets there. It may not be this season. I still do believe in Nico and that he's built different. But I do think we can conclude at this point that it's taken a minute here for this to fully be realized, to hit this ceiling that everybody was so excited about with Nico. The offense just has not been there.
Right.
The last couple of weeks in SEC play, it's been quite bad, actually.
Yeah. And Alabama was pretty mortal last week on offense. The mismatch here might be Tennessee's defensive line looking like a winning defensive line, holding up its end of the bargain against Alabama, who has struggled in pass protection for stretches this year. We saw it against South Carolina. Obviously, we saw it for stretches against South Florida early on this season.
Sure.
And they've made personnel changes and they've tried to correct certain things and they're dealing with injuries. But Tennessee is going to get after everybody on that defensive line. I think Tennessee fans are going to be incensed after this game, thinking defense did enough. We saw what South Carolina did. I saw Ryan Williams had a quote saying that South Carolina did a good job of funneling Ryan Williams essentially away from the action. They ran a defense that sort of isolated him on part of the field. And obviously it opened things up for other, players on the Alabama offense, like Jeremy Bernard. But I just don't think Tennessee has that pop right now on offense. It's sort of an all or nothing thing that okay, fine, maybe they'll find, Dante Thornton or something for 60 plus yards. But I think you need to beat Alabama by making a lot of plays. And this does not seem like a lot of play offense. So I have down here, I think you need to score around 30 points to beat Alabama. I have this as 24-17 Bama.
Wow, low scoring.
Yeah, relatively low scoring.
I am interested about the point you raised with Tennessee's defensive line because I feel like I've been talking about their D-line the last 6 weeks now, truly all season long, about this defensive line and how highly I think of it. And I'm waiting for it to change a game in the way that I've expected. You know, like they're bringing pressure. They're not necessarily getting sacks with that pressure, right? The rate of sacks to pressure is relatively low. You know, you change a game, that's something, but you bring pressure on a guy like Jalen Milroe, he's going to run. And that's part of the game plan at this point. Actually, that might be the whole Bama game plan, to put him on the run and get him outside the pocket and try to mitigate some of, you know, whatever issues they might have in pass protection. I like Bama big here, actually. And I hate myself for it because I really don't like taking road teams. At some point this season, the worm turned, and betting on road teams has come back to really, really bite me. But I've got this at something like 34-21 Bama. I think it's a fun game with big plays through the air. I just think the trend of Tennessee not being able to score is more worrying than anything else. You know, more worrying than Bama playing with its food, let's say, since that Georgia game a couple weeks back. 34-21, let's lock up Bama. Why not?
Wow.
Lock of the week.
That's too many points for me to see Tennessee's defense give up. It really just, that's what it came down to for me. They're like, they can lose this game. They can lose a game comfortably. It's too many points.
Let's, again, jump around. Let's go to 12 Eastern, high noon on ABC. This one's Miami at Louisville.
Yes.
Very consequential matchup in the ACC. Miami minus 4.5 on the road. A couple weeks ago on a Tuesday show, you and I had a long-winded discussion about Louisville, how Louisville was getting sacks without blitzing. And I thought in that moment that could be something to watch in a game like this with Cam Ward in Miami, who, you know, you don't want to commit too much to him scrambling because then that leaves you susceptible in the back end of things. Now, as the season has gone on, some of those numbers have normalized out to the point that I don't think it's as big of a factor.
Right.
I'm not sure it's something we could bank on at this point. I don't understand this point spread. I really don't. I think Louisville has proven it can hang with good teams, but the pass defense has really been an issue. And I think we both have an aversion to Tyler Shuck in a big game.
Yeah.
So if you're betting on Louisville here, you're hoping for big runs by Isaac Brown. You're hoping it's another Miami spot where they seem 72% interested and keep it close. But I think Miami's the better team through and through. Truly, if you're betting on Louisville here, you like them because they're at home. You like them because there's the crystal ball Miami disinterest effect that we've seen on display a couple times now and throughout the years. But for as much as I would like to see Louisville shake up this race in the ACC, I feel like Louisville is a 4 or 5 loss team that Miami can handle. So I've got this one at something like 34-26 Miami.
What's doing the work for your Miami interest right now?
The lines. Ultimately, the lines.
Is there a result?
A result? What do you mean by
so
that?
like Miami's resume this year is coming out week one. I discount week one somewhat, but not fully. You have to obviously give Miami credit for beating Florida on the road the way that they did. But since then, what's the result? Have they taken care of business in impressive ways against anybody interesting? Like they've played 2 ACC games. They played Virginia Tech short week coming off of a road game against USF in state, not a crazy road trip, and needed a miracle at the end of that game to win. Yeah. Right? They needed to survive that game, and it was a very sloppy affair at home. And they traveled across the country, which is situationally difficult, and had to come back from a monster deficit to beat a decent but not killer Cal team.
Sure. Look, they showed character at the end of the Cal game.
Sure.
To come back in the manner that they did, they shouldn't have been down. Falling behind in the manner that they did was not acceptable. Okay, and if they continue on that course, they're going to drop a game or two. They just are. We've talked about it before. There's some big road games still in the schedule. This week is one of them against Louisville. I don't know if there is that result, Dan, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
I think I am putting a fair amount of trust in the talent that I know they have on hand. I love Cam Ward. I love Damian Martinez. I really like their lines. That has been the thing I have been fixated on since the moment we started previewing all things ACC. I just have a certain amount of confidence that those units will perform. That also, by the way, that's kind of the story of college football and the top teams this season. There is not to say blind faith that the talent will come through, but definitely one eye closed faith.
Sure.
That some of this talent is going to live up to our preseason billing. That's where I'm at with Miami. I think it's more me reacting to what I have seen from Louisville over the last couple weeks.
Right.
Which, frankly, has left me a bit underwhelmed. Louisville is probably good enough to be within 7 to 10 points of most teams that they play. I just don't feel like they are good enough to get over the hump and actually get a win, especially against a team like a Miami.
Right. And they've lost to a decent team in SMU at home within the last couple weeks.
Yep.
SMU at the very least decent. Obviously a different team once they made the quarterback change. And kind of close against Virginia last week on the road.
Yep.
This one was actually the lone agonizing pick, but I think I'm going Louisville here.
Oh, don't do it, man.
I think I'm going I actually wrote down
do
Miami.
This to yourself. Why would you do this?
I wrote down Miami 34-28. I don't know. I think you need to be buttoned up to win a game like this. And Miami is not buttoned up really on either side of the ball with the way Virginia Tech ran on them, with the way Cal passed on them. Those are two different elements of an offense that Miami struggled with in their 2 games against ACC opponents.
It's true. Listen, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Louisville has left me very underwhelmed.
I'm with you. I actually think Miami will pull out this game. I think they're going to sneak it out. I've watched enough Mario Cristobal games at both Oregon and Miami.
Potential snake in the toilet? I found our old sound, by the way.
I think the new one is superior, if I do say so myself. Produced by, I was going to come up with some sort of crazy producer, but I forgot. What was the name?
Rick Rubin? Rick Rubin doing this?
No, it wasn't a Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin would have taken way too much out of the mix. I put in a lot of juice in there. He's a minimalistic type producer. This is produced by George R.R. Martin.
There you go.
Oh, man. No, I think the Louisville defense can make enough plays. I think the running game is interesting to me with Louisville. And I think that there's enough pop, enough of a connection between Ja'Cory Brooks and Tyler Shuck. I don't think Louisville wins this game. I have Miami winning at 30-27.
Okay. So we sort of agree. I've got Miami covering on the road, which I hate. Oh, God, I hate that.
Miami's coming off of a bye. This is situationally as advantageous an ACC game that Miami has had so far.
All right, let's go to another night game here. Again, jumping around a little bit, trying to keep it fresh.
Please.
7 p.m. ESPN. This is LSU -3 on the road at Arkansas. Is this not a letdown look-ahead situation, Dan?
Oh, look at that sandwich. I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry.
Oh, boy.
A win against Ole Miss, a big win at home against Ole Miss a week ago, where the crowd rushed the field. A big game on the road next week against Texas A&M, which on the Tuesday episode I talked about as potentially a play-in game for playoff eligibility.
Yeah.
And this week, sandwiched in the middle, after that big emotional win with a big emotional game on deck, little old Arkansas, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Little old Arkansas on the road at night in Fayetteville. Sam Pittman, maybe still playing for his job. Who's to say? Who's to say? Arkansas coming off a bye, which I know you like.
Love a bye home against a letdown team, yeah.
And this game's usually kind of nuts, man. It is nuts. The last 4 meetings have been decided by exactly 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
Your line is 3 points in favor of LSU. Seems like an extraordinarily bad situation for LSU.
Yeah.
And I do think there is a tendency for giving up big plays that we probably should mention here in the spot.
Gotten better against the run, but they still give up some big plays. Yeah.
I am not willing to say Arkansas wins this game outright.
Okay.
But I'm also not willing to lay the points. I am sort of in that no man's land where I could see it being something like 34-31 LSU and a push.
Get off the fence, Ty.
I can't say push on this show. People will make fun of me.
Get off the
Where
fence.
are you at here? Talk me into one side of this versus the other. I'm not even gonna BS you.
Right.
And act like I've got a hard and fast pick here. I came to this recording genuinely not knowing who to pick.
This is not technically a true snake in the toilet game because nobody sits down on the throne expecting the possibility of, I looked this up, an inland taipan tai, the most venomous snake in the world, found in like the Australian desert. But
Snake in the toilet. Snake in the toilet.
it's inner game tie where this is going to seem like an LSU win, and I think Arkansas is going to steal it out of nowhere. Hogs, lock of the week.
Whoa!
Lock of the week.
Oh, I like this. I like this.
I think LSU is going to run out of gas. And what I think is going to bite them, perhaps with some fangs coming out of the water, Ty, the inability to consistently run the ball with a lead, I think is going to be a troubling element to this game. Arkansas's their defense still gives up a lot of big plays, but they're one of the best blitzing teams in the country. LSU has been very good at protecting Garrett Nussmeier by and large, but I think Arkansas coming up with creative ways to send pressure is going to wear LSU down. I have Arkansas 28-27. Late, dramatic, at home, snake in the toilet win.
You know, the last time we had a snake in the toilet Saturday, I was quite literally on Google looking up to see if it was something that could happen.
And it has, right?
It has actually happened. It's not common, but it's happened. It's happened. I don't think it's happened in my area, thankfully.
What do you
Probably
do?
Not yours.
What is the actual move? Even if you somehow understand that there's a snake in the toilet and you are able to move before getting bitten, before whatever kind of snake makes its way out, if it happens to be a venomous snake, that is, not all snakes are. Like, what goes through your mind the next time, the next 50 times you make your way to the toilet?
I don't know if you ever recover from that. You might have to get one of those contraptions like they have in China where you're standing above it and not sitting down.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah. No, go to Asia, man. It's a whole thing.
Just got to bring a plastic bag into the bathroom, stand near the toilet, be ready to dispose.
I don't think you recover from that. I don't think you recover from an actual snake in the toilet.
It's far too traumatic. Yeah.
I'll go Arkansas too. What the hell?
Good.
We'll stick together.
Good.
Why not, right? No one's turning to this show for real betting advice anyway.
No, then nor should they.
Go Arkansas. And let's close out our big game segment here at the top. 3:30 ESPN, Notre Dame -11. Oh, God.
Is
At
this
Georgia
snaky?
Tech.
Is it snaky?
It is snaky.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It is. And this line went way up. When I made the doc, it was 7.5 Notre Dame. It went up to 11. That feels like a lot to me. Now, I'm a timid Notre Dame fan at this point in life. Anytime I see a point spread, I say, it doesn't matter what game it is. If they're favored, I'm like, ooh, I don't know about this. They're not covering that. I was very skeptical of this Notre Dame team, as you know, at the start of the season. I do think we have seen real progress, though. And I shudder a little bit to say that because it's not necessarily the progress I expected we would see, but we have seen real progress along the lines. We have seen the passing game get a little bit more confident. Last week especially, where they're at the point now where they can use the combination of Riley Leonard's legs and Jeremiah Love's versatility to open up more down the field and start taking those shots. It took a minute.
Mm-hmm.
It did. But coming out of the bye week, the bye week came at a good time. It felt like they took a big step forward last week. That pass should absolutely be there this week against Georgia Tech. This is not a great Georgia Tech defense. I just don't like giving Tech that many points for what is, in effect, a home game. They're playing it at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta.
Yeah.
This is against a Notre Dame defense that just lost Benjamin Morrison for the season with a hip injury. They're already nicked up with other injuries along the line and elsewhere. So I think Notre Dame wins this game, but Georgia Tech, man, is pesky as hell. Talk about a snake in the toilet. Please don't play the sound anymore. I don't need to hear it.
Snake in.
That is Georgia Tech's whole ethos.
Yeah.
This season. So I don't have Notre Dame covering. I've got them winning something like 33-24.
Okay.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. They can run the ball. They can open up some looks down the field. Hopefully Riley Leonard continues to progress. They got Navy on deck next week, which will be a whole separate other conversation. But for the time being anyway, let's go 33-24 Notre Dame on the road.
I have Notre Dame covering here. I think Georgia Tech has a fun ceiling, but I don't think it has a Notre Dame ceiling. I think Notre Dame is getting things in order, as you mentioned, and like the injury stuff doesn't make me feel great, but I don't think Georgia Tech is the team to take advantage. They needed that last second long run from Jamal Haynes to beat North Carolina last week. I don't know. I have Notre Dame here 31-17. I think there's still so much to this Notre Dame team up front on defense that they can force a couple 3-and-outs early and pace a comfortable win against Georgia Tech on the road. And it's also an ideal spot for Notre Dame to continue to take shots, right?
Yeah.
Weather controlled, no wind, no glare, nice smooth surface. Like, the conditions are right to try to take advantage. And when you look at the back half of Notre Dame's schedule, if Notre Dame is indeed of playoff caliber, there are a lot of opportunities for this Notre Dame team to get reps in looking like a more complete offense against, as scary as Navy is. Okay?
Go ahead.
The back half of the schedule with USC, with do they have Virginia. Did I see that, Notre Dame?
Right.
There are plenty of opportunities to try and grow within a season offensively and stretch the field.
No, look, I mean, I said this a few weeks ago. It actually is a great season to have both Navy and Army on the schedule, just because that will actually add to your strength of schedule. Both of those are pretty good teams, but it's Tech this week. It's Navy next. They close out then in November after a bye with Florida State, Virginia, a neutral site game against Army, I believe in Yankee Stadium, and then on the road at USC. They are projected right now to win all those games.
Okay.
But we'll see. All right. So we agree somewhat on the winner, not necessarily the points. I'm just a little scaredy cat here.
Riley Leonard at his best, B+, or even better because of his legs, B-.
We'll just give him a solid B.
Okay, solid B.
Getting better, though.
Okay.
He is getting better. You want to be quad fathers here?
Let's.
Think about the heart, the passion, the love, the commitment, and the energy you're willing to put into it.
Ha! Sorry, I get into it.
You're good.
Tom Platz, the quad father, do not do that workout. No. Disclaimer. Let's talk some quads, right? Depending on how you watch the games on Saturday, you may or may not have the option to put 4 games on at once, just sort of within your little console there. They do it for you. In other cases, we've got verballers who like to do it manually. They've just got a bunch of iPads and TVs, and they sort of assemble it at will.
Yes.
However you're doing it, let's pick out 4 games that we think are of interest in the early block that people can put on simultaneously. I've got 4.
Okay.
To start here at noon. I've got Auburn at Missouri. Missouri? I said both.
Missouri.
Auburn at Missouri. Missouri favored by 4.
That's what Nelly calls it. Yeah.
Missouri.
Yeah.
You got Virginia at Clemson. Clemson favored by 21.5. We've got South Carolina at Oklahoma. This is like a Big Ten West game in the SEC. We've got Oklahoma favored by 3.
Okay.
And we've got Arizona State. I put them on the list here too. Arizona State at Cincinnati. Now, before we hit record, you said that Sam Leavitt's out?
Sam Leavitt is out. It's going to be a Jeff Sims game. Still in college.
Oh, my God.
Jeff Sims.
All right, so I'll take Indiana knowing that Jeff Sims is playing.
You mean Cincinnati, but yes.
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
What did I say? Indiana?
Yeah.
I don't know why I said Indiana, but I'll go Cincinnati over Arizona State. I'll go Cincinnati minus 2.5. I was going to go ASU, but with Sam Leavitt out, I don't really like that situation. I can't see betting on Oklahoma right now, just given where they're at. I have no idea what to expect. And South Carolina looked good, truly looked good, at least defensively.
Yeah.
Against Alabama. If not for shooting themselves in the foot a bunch of times, they probably win that game. I'm going to go Clemson minus whatever against Virginia. I like Virginia. They're an interesting team. They're better on defense than you might think, but their issue is allowing big plays through the air and not finishing drives on offense.
Right.
And I do think Clemson has gotten better at going downfield this season. And then that brings me to the Auburn game.
Okay.
This line came down, and I don't understand it. When I made this document, it was Mizzou minus 6.5. And now it's Mizzou minus 4.5. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, all right, well, Mizzou got a good neck crack in last week on the road at UMass. We had been waiting for it to happen all season long, albeit against a better team than UMass, but still, it seems like things came together. Maybe they needed a game like that to get things going.
Sure.
I look at this matchup and I say, I don't like Auburn that much at all. I don't know what Auburn is. At least I know kind of what Mizzou is, even if it's underwhelming. So I don't understand why this line came down in the manner that it did.
Well, I can tell you this. Whatever you think of Oklahoma as a team that has fallen off a cliff, Ty, Auburn's a little bit worse than that.
Yeah, exactly. That's
After
my point.
losing the way that they did to Oklahoma. I don't know. I think we've had enough time. Like, Auburn's coming off of a bye, so there's at least that.
But is that worth 2 points? That's sort of my whole theory here is that there's got to be something I'm missing for the line to come down, or a rich Auburn booster who is very confident in this game. How does this line move? Is there an injury that I don't know about? Maybe.
Sure.
We're covering all these games. I mean, there are things that fall under the radar all the time. But somebody needs to instruct me as to why this line came down. If it is solely somebody believing in Auburn, I would love to talk to that person and see why. What are we believing in here?
Well, look, if nothing else, the Mizzou win over Vandy has aged really well after Vandy's win against Alabama and Kentucky. Wins against them. You have to bet on what you haven't seen if you're going with Auburn here. You have to bet on they're not a complete team, they're not a consistent team, but every now and then they put it together for a few drives. And maybe those few drives turn into all of the drives against a team that's as flawed, weirdly so offensively, like Mizzou has been this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to need after this season, like a 60 minutes investigation into how they have had so much trouble generating big plays despite having Luther Burden on the roster.
Right.
And they had a lot back, too. It wasn't just Luther Burden. I mean, they lost a lot in the running game, and, it's not a full, complete package of last year's team just returning in state. But even still, to be as bad as they've been at generating these big shots, There's a lot on both sides of this that I do not understand.
We came into the season thinking that T-Mac and Luther Burden were kind of like 1A, 1B, or 1B, 1A, whatever. And both of those offenses seem to have fallen off of a cliff in terms of explosivity, which is crazy. I'm going to take the points here. I don't like either team that much, Ty. The line is sliding in a direction. I'm going to take if I don't like either team, I'm just going to take points.
I'm going to go Mizzou.
Okay.
If I'm wrong, I'll come back on Saturday night. We can talk it through. I'll do a mea culpa. I don't get it.
What's the best thing about Mizzou this year? What's the best result? What's the best stretch? What is it about Mizzou? I know. Listen.
You're singing to the choir. I get it. I'm not ready to.
Held off BC Auburn. And Vanderbilt. Okay.
There is a bunch of lines this week, frankly, that I don't understand, that have moved in a way that I don't expect. Right now, UCLA at Rutgers. Rutgers is down to 4.5 points.
Mm-hmm.
UCLA is a wreck.
Yes.
They're a wreck. Their run defense is okay. Maybe that's why this line is where it's at. But, like, traveling cross country, I don't know if I like that. But I'm not going to bet that game. But I'm watching that game. That's at noon on FS1. I do like Wisconsin -7 on the road at Northwestern. I think I am in on Wisconsin. They pounded Rutgers last week. They pounded Purdue the week before. And they had a lead on USC the week before that.
Right.
There is a good chance that Wisconsin's better than we think, and that they have found something of a rhythm now post TVD.
Okay.
So I'm willing to lay those points with Wisconsin. That could be one of the money bets that I post out to Twitter, depending how I'm feeling on Saturday morning.
Wisconsin has an interesting stretch after Northwestern. You mentioned them. They also had a really nice first half against USC, but pounding Rutgers and pounding Purdue. Yes, those were the consecutive.
Yep.
They've been throwing downfield more. They even succeeded downfield a little bit against USC, which is not the biggest challenge in the world, but they did the right thing. They've been running the ball better. I think maybe throwing the ball has opened up the run, weirdly enough, for Wisconsin. I just don't know how seriously you take the Rutgers and Purdue wins. For as interesting and fun and strong as Rutgers is in certain elements, defensively, they've been sort of all over the place this year. If Wisconsin is in fact capital P pretty good, don't they have Oregon, Penn State, and Iowa in some order in the coming weeks after Northwestern? This is a really interesting Big Ten upper middle class tipping point moment, I think, for Wisconsin, or a litmus test. Because Northwestern, for as much as their offense has struggled, their defense has been fine. They've been
defense
okay.
is pretty good, like fringe top 20.
And offensively, they've grown. It was 37-10, I guess, against Maryland. They've been throwing the ball better and better with Jack Lausch as he's gotten more reps. So if Wisconsin goes, I think this is the final game on the lake for Northwestern. If Wisconsin goes to Evanston and beats them 27-13, 27-14, I think it's reasonable to say Wisconsin has turned an interesting corner with Braden Locke.
Yeah, and the next 4 games on the schedule for Wisconsin, they've got some heavy hitters.
Oh, it's at Nebraska, too, after Oregon, before they finish against Minnesota. In the
after
game,
this week, it's home against Penn State, which is an interesting spot, by the way, with Penn State having a big game of its own on deck after that one. But next week, Penn State at home. The week after on the road at Iowa before a bye week.
They have a bye before Oregon.
Coming out of the bye, they host Oregon. You going to go to that game? It's close.
It is close. Unfortunately, it's mid-November in the upper Midwest, which is not my favorite thing. We'll see. We'll see where my head is at and where Oregon's at.
Oregon is coming to town in Madison, and then it is on the road November 23rd at Nebraska before they close things out. Rivalry game against Minnesota.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the afternoon quad.
Did we make
My question to you is, how bad do you really want legs?
Did I hit the button before you made your picks?
I didn't make a pick for Wisconsin.
Oh, who do you got?
I'm going to go. It's going to be a pretty day. If it were windy or gusts or rainy or something like that, then Northwestern would be a no-brainer. I'm going to go Wisconsin here. I hate it, but I'm going with the Badgers.
Sorry, I got
it's okay.
There.
Preemptive platzing.
3:30 that afternoon block. I'm calling out Toledo versus NIU.
Ooh.
Give a shout out to our G5 brothers and sisters out there. It's a big game, actually.
Mm-hmm.
NIU, Toledo, both 4-2. Both have some MAC aspirations. NIU is favored by 2.5 points. This game's got 16-14 written all over it. I think if you like defense, as many of our ballers do, this would be an interesting game to watch. That's why I included it in this quad. So I would take points personally.
Okay.
I would not want to lay any points in this game, but it's meaningful MAC action. We like MAC-tion here on the show, so why not? Also in that afternoon block at 4 p.m. on Fox, it is Colorado at Arizona.
Yes.
Arizona favored by 3.5 points, Dan. What is your state of play with Arizona right now?
I think they're a poorly coached team, and if winning is a skill, it's a skill that they don't possess right now. I don't love them, but I think there's a very specific way to beat Arizona, and that's by running straight at them. And if there's anything we know about Colorado, is they don't
run at anybody
to avoid their own running backs and their own offensive line trying to open up lanes. I think this is a game. I think Colorado's a better team than Arizona, and I think Colorado's going to lose. I think they're going to approach this game offensively in a backwards way, and I think Arizona's going to find a way that you could argue that was probably, I mean, you can't even argue it that strongly that last week was Arizona's worst week because of, so it was last week it was against BYU, but then you look at the Kansas State game, you're like, well, they have 2 worst weeks, which means they're not very good.
Yeah.
So
I'm going Colorado. I'm going
to go Arizona here. I think Colorado is going to give this game away late.
I totally see it. I looked at the spreadsheet. I saw a lot of red on the Arizona rush defense side of things, and I thought the same thing. But I've got Colorado finding a way to win this one. I've got them winning their next 2.
Okay.
Which gets them bowl eligible, which in and of itself would be a pretty big deal. And if you look at the schedule, I don't want to get too far out over my skis. They could get to 8 or 9 wins.
Sure.
They could. They absolutely could. So I'm on Colorado. You're on Arizona. USC -7 at Maryland, 4 p.m. FS1. Talk to me about this game. I know the numbers.
Yeah.
I know the travel stats.
Yeah.
I get why somebody would look at this and pick Maryland. I just think Maryland kind of sucks. I think they suck.
Maryland's
to come
not great.
out of a bye week last week and lose by 27 to Northwestern? Are you kidding me?
No, that points to a team not taking Northwestern seriously. Maybe there was reason not to up until that point, but you got to take everybody seriously on your schedule if you're a quality team.
Out of a bye, though. That's the thing. Out of a bye. You don't usually have look-aheads coming out of a bye.
I agree.
I know this is a bigger game for them, but I think they might just suck.
I don't think Maryland sucks. I think they're very average, and I think we have two average teams here, and I'm going to take the points with the home dog. With USC traveling across the country in a huge letdown spot after giving away the Penn State game, I think they're going to pull this game out. I think they're going to win this game by 3 or 4 points, but I don't think either one of these teams is clean in any regard, so I'm going to take points here. I know the history. I think USC is able to reverse course and do enough on the ground where they're actually like, you mentioned liking Woody Marks and Quentin Joyner. I think you're spot on there. I think those guys are great. Woody Marks reminds me a little bit of the best of Bucky Irving at Oregon, where there's an incredible amount of body control and vision. Like, he has been a huge success story for SC, all things considered. So I think they're going to lean on, if they were smart, if Lincoln Riley goes against his own trends and accepts the fact that running the ball is good when you have a good running game, which he is known to do, I'm going to go with USC to win this game, but in sort of ugly fashion on the road.
I'm on USC minus the points.
Okay, have fun.
I know. I'm not betting it, but I'm on USC there. And then that brings us to this game. 3:30 CBS. Michigan -3 at Illinois.
And that's gone up.
It's gone up. It was Michigan -1. Now it's at Michigan -3. I don't know how it'll move on game day. Again, there have been a bunch of lines that have moved considerably since we made this document on Monday morning. Quote, they call him Uncle Jack, the 7th-year guy that's done it, seen it, been in the big game, been in all the games. That's from Sharon Moore talking about his new starting quarterback now. I guess not new, but officially.
Yeah.
Jack Tuttle.
I don't think he started a game for Michigan yet, right? Alex Orji started the Washington game, so that's new.
New starting quarterback, sure. I need to point out here, I am contractually obligated to point out here that the Ty Hildenbrandt BS detector is registering at about a 98.6 out of a possible 100 for Sharon Moore.
Okay.
I understand why the head coach says things like this. I get that. You want to instill confidence. You want to rally the troops. You want to get everybody excited, move things forward. I get it. It's a tactic as old as time. But what big games has Jack Tuttle been in?
I agree. I mean, he's been on the sideline, Ty.
A big game quarterback because he beat Wisconsin in the COVID year?
It's a technicality, Ty. He's been in a lot of big games, watching them from the sideline last year for Michigan.
You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me with this.
Yeah.
Say something else. Don't pump this guy up like he's the second
He's been
coming.
real growing. He's growing. He's sort of, the mental reps have been quality. Yeah.
I don't get, like, the BS. I'm sorry to say this, but the BS detector is going off big time here. Not just because of this quote, but I think the Michigan offensive situation as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
The quarterback situation has been an absolute joke. It has been an absolute joke. And if not for Kalel Mullings this season, this offense will be a complete train wreck. I cannot get over the fact that this team won the national championship a year ago, and this is what they look like now.
Yep.
And I know there's been turnover. You lose a first-round quarterback. You would think having a first-round quarterback would make it more likely you'd get another one. So on some level, somebody misfired.
Sure.
They didn't go out and use the portal because they didn't think they had to. Maybe there was so much upheaval with Jim Harbaugh leaving and turnover elsewhere that it was too late in the game to do that. I don't know. Michigan people can write and you can yell at me. I don't care. But I am flabbergasted by the point that they do not have anybody better than Jack Tuttle, and we're halfway into the season.
Real fun.
Flabbergasted. I don't get it. I don't get it. And I don't get this point spread either. I really don't. I don't think Illinois is that good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Michigan's that good. Frankly, I'd put this as a pick'em. I have no idea who's winning this game. I think Illinois is the type of pesky that could win a game like this, but I saw them play against Penn State. I saw them play against a better defense, and they left a lot to be desired.
Okay.
So my hunch is, despite the fact that I don't like taking road teams, I feel like I've taken all friggin' road teams this podcast. I'm going to go Michigan. I think they're far and away the better defense. And I think I'll take defense here against an Illinois offense that maybe has been better under Luke Altmaier, but definitely left a lot to be desired when I saw him play against Penn State.
So, okay, here is the case for Illinois. It's pretty easy that despite some like clear deficiencies, especially on the offensive line, they have the better quarterback and they're playing at home. That's a really nice starting point.
Yes. Wow, you're right. You are right about that.
And they're dogs, yes? 3-point
dogs? Right
dogs?
now, a 3-point home dog.
Now, also, if you're going to tell the complete Illinois story, they gave up 40 second-half points to Purdue last week. New quarterback for Purdue. New team. They did give up 40 points in the second half, and that was coming off of a bye. As you like to point out, there's nobody really should be looking ahead after a bye.
No.
If you are going to take this year's Michigan in a vacuum, they're extraordinarily average. They found ways to beat Minnesota. They found a way to beat USC at the end. I'm not going to say winning is a for sure skill for Michigan, but they've won. They lost to Washington. They've gone through quarterback issues. I think Michigan wins this game. I don't love picking a road team. I don't like picking a road team with the clear worst quarterback. I think it's a nice matchup for Michigan.
It is October.
It is Octobert for Illinois. You're right.
It's not November, which is much more of an occult force.
Right. I'm going to go Michigan here. I think they ugly this game up enough and win. I think they're going to force a turnover, 3. I think they're going to be able to run the ball eventually. I'm going to go Michigan to win this game. I don't know, 21-18.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's a push, right? I'll
That'd
go
be a
Michigan
push.
to win this game 23-17.
23, there you go. There you go. I'll go 21-15 or so. That'd be some weird score here. 24-19. Someone's going to go for 2 and not get it. Give me Michigan. One other game. Can I go a second lock here?
Please.
Not this game, but a different one.
Lock of the week.
I'm in for a dime. I'm in for a dollar on road favorites. Why not?
Yeah.
I tell myself every week not to do this, not to put myself out there. Texas A&M minus whatever against Mississippi State.
I have that as well. Yeah.
It is a look-ahead spot for A&M with LSU on deck, but coming out of a bye, I think that negates. It should negate that factor a little bit. I think A&M is headed in a good direction. I like the trajectory of A&M. I got them in my playoff projection, which we did on Tuesday. Go back and listen to that show. So this is a game where if the offense is making strides, if the team is getting better, they should not only hold Mississippi State down, but they should be able to score points in droves.
Mississippi State, while frisky last week, a little bit on offense against Georgia, may have the worst power conference defense in America.
Case in point.
Yeah.
Let's go to the night games real quick. Let's do it.
Welcome to the pain zone is where we live.
It's a pain zone, man.
Yes, sir.
7:30 on Fox, Kansas State -3 on the road at West Virginia. 7:30 on NBC, Iowa -5.5 at Michigan State. Need to talk about that line, Dan. We'll talk about it in a second.
Yeah.
7:30 FS1, UCF on the road at Iowa State. Iowa State favored by 14 points. And finally, 7:45 SEC Network, Kentucky. Kentucky now favored by 1, given the Graham Mertz news, on the road in the Swamp against the Florida Gators. Give me your thoughts. Any of those games jump out to you?
This was like an easy night window for me, and I hate it. I went all favorites here. Even though Kansas State coming off a big emotional win on the road, stay on the road to play against West Virginia. You beat Kansas State through the air, testing them deep. That's not who West Virginia is. West Virginia, I don't feel like is built to win in that manner. So I'm going Kansas State to eventually swallow them up in the way that Iowa State did a little bit. I have Iowa over Michigan State with somewhat comfort. I know it's, maybe a letdown spot after scoring 40 against Washington. Really nice growth moment for the offense.
What am I missing here? Why is this line 5.5?
Well, it's at Michigan State at night. I mean, that people aren't buying that Iowa can do this consistently. But I think for Iowa, maybe that was a proof of concept and that they're maybe more confident heading into the rest of the back half of the season.
I'm on Iowa here.
I'm on Iowa.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm on Iowa. This scares me as a Vegas knows something kind of game.
Right.
It really does. But I can't in good faith go Michigan State. I don't really know what I'd be betting on. I I like overall where Michigan State, I think, is headed, but it's going to take a minute.
I like Iowa State, even double digits, giving those points, 12, 13 points against UCF. I think UCF is just a below average team right now, much to my disappointment and surprise. I thought this was going to be a growth year, even with Ted Roof. I like the KJ Jefferson element. He got benched. I don't think they're built to win right now. I don't think they're in a winning mindset, and Iowa State will happily beat a team like that by 17-24. So I have Iowa State at home at night there, and I think Kentucky. So Graham Mertz, I said I had all favorites. I have Kentucky here.
Kentucky is favored now. So
they flipped. What's the spread right now?
It's 1. They're favored by 1. So for all intents and purposes, it's a pick 'em.
I like Kentucky here. I as much as I am a believer in DJ Lagway long term, throwing into this defense in a letdown spot, losing an OT to Tennessee. Kentucky lost to let's not even say good Vandy team. Let's say great Vandy team. Let's give them their proper flowers.
Sure.
I just think it's a nice matchup and a nice moment for Kentucky. I just don't like DJ Lagway throwing into this defense. He's not as seasoned, obviously, as Diego Pavia. I am going Kentucky in a 16-13 type final over Florida.
I'm going to go Florida, actually.
Okay.
I don't like the Kentucky vibes right now. So I'm going Florida. I'm going Iowa State. I'm going to go Iowa. I'm going to go West Virginia home dog of the week.
The Yakos home dog of the week.
The double road thing for Kansas State scares you?
The double road thing, and the stat you called out about tendencies, I think is fair, and I saw that too.
Yeah.
This game comes down to whichever team makes the biggest plays through the air. I don't trust Avery Johnson on the road at night in Morgantown. And I think Garrett Green, I think that West Virginia offense could find a way to get some big plays through the air. I think it's a good game. So I'm going to go West Virginia at home. I'm not fully selling all my West Virginia stock at this point.
All I can tell you is Avery Johnson made huge play after huge play at altitude. And if he can prove it to me that high above sea level, he can do it at Morgantown.
2 late games that I want to call out very quickly. 10 p.m. on the C-Dub. It is UNLV now up to a 7.5-point favorite against Oregon State. I'm going Oregon State with the points.
Oh, my God. UNLV double lock of the week for me.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Lock of the week.
Can I tell you something else that might have you unlock it?
Okay. Sluka's
UNLV.
back?
No, Sluka's not back.
Okay.
Huge look-ahead spot for UNLV with a home game next week against Boise State.
I don't think it's a look-ahead spot against Oregon State.
You think Oregon State's that bad?
No. I'm saying I think they're going to take Oregon State seriously. I don't think they're going to look past them.
Oh. I'll take Oregon State.
I'm taking UNLV. Oregon State is down 38 defensive linemen right now.
Okay.
They're down. They are so thin on defense. They just lost to Nevada. I don't know. If you're losing to Nevada, you're likely losing bigger to UNLV to me, even with it being in Corvallis. I'm going UNLV by a couple touchdowns.
10:30 ESPN. It's TCU at Utah. Utah now a 4.5-point favorite. I think they were about 7.5-point favorite before the Cam Rising news.
Yeah.
Then the Cam Rising news dropped, and now it's down to 4.5 points. It wouldn't surprise me if it went lower before kickoff. Two teams, frankly, that I don't know what they are at this point. I think I still favor Utah because I like the ground assault.
It's a nice matchup.
I like Mekhi Bernard here against TCU. I think that's the matchup that makes the most sense to me to lock in on. So I go Utah minus the points, but late night ESPN game, this one's going to be going on as we're recording. We'll probably have to get to it on Tuesday. Frankly, this one won't be over by the time we get to it.
Oh, I'm going Utah comfortably. Yeah, 13 to 14 points.
All right, if you are out there, if you are in the market for live college football games and podcasts in pristine audio format, this is your chance. This is your helpful reminder to go and download the Varsity Network app. It is free to download in the App Store on Apple or in the Google Play Store. All you got to do is search for your school. You will get the content that you desire. We both have it on our phones. We both listen to the College Football Blitz every Saturday. Make sure that we're staying up to date with what's going on. Our friend Stevie Speedrun gives you the action. It's sort of like Red Zone Network, but for college football in pristine audio.
It's a no-brainer. You're out and about. You got errands to do. You're at a soccer game, a kid's game, whatever. You got to get with the Varsity app. No-brainer.
I don't have a window of opportunity this week, by the way. I think this is the week you cash in all the favors you've been doing, all the chores you've been doing, all the stuff out of the goodness of your heart. I think this is the week you cash it in and try and get in front of the couch because there are good games. If you hadn't gone snake in the toilet Saturday, I would have called it a second screen Saturday. There's 2 good games in each window that I think you need to pay attention to.
I think so too. Maybe I would say Friday night, but it is that snake in the toilet.
Snake in the toilet. Snake in the toilet.
That in the toilet was a little wet, right? With the mix. Like I felt good about how
you did add a little wetness to that.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess pay attention initially to the Oregon-Purdue game to see if it's close or something. But otherwise, have a Friday night date night. Really make it a special one for your significant other.
All right, that does it. Long show, but a lot of games to get through here.
Yeah, baby.
We appreciate everybody supporting what we do, downloading. Make sure you hit subscribe or follow wherever it is you find this show. Of course, going out to playruntheboard.com. Get in on the Mammoth game this week and play for a gaming console. Playruntheboard.com. All you got to do is sign up as a certified or premium verballer. You will get access into our game. I'm going to make the post here as soon as we hit stop so that people can get in. Of course, last but certainly not least, tell your friends about the Solid Verbal. If you already listen, if you've been here a while, sharing the show is very helpful. Obviously, leaving a review out on Apple is very helpful. We appreciate all of your support. It helps us grow the Verballerhood, grow the footprint of the show. Everybody is welcome. And give us a call, 855-VERBAL-3. That is the reverb line. We will play your messages on Saturday night.
Ty, real quick favor, drop that big stanky drum and fife for me.
Woo! Baby.
We got another Pat Ivy-ish week ahead of us.
12 p.m. It is Holy Cross. Crusaders at 3-4 on the road at Harvard at 3-1. Dan, who you got?
I'm going to go with your alma mater here. I'm going Harvard.
Harvard! Not my alma mater. Are you kidding me? They wouldn't
Sorry.
let me anywhere near Harvard.
I should have finished. The Harvard of Central PA.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to go Crusaders. Why not? 12 o'clock, Lehigh, 3-2 on the road at Yale, 2-2. Who you got?
A nice little bounce back season for Lehigh. I think Yale's probably looking ahead and not taking the Engineers seriously. Give me Lehigh.
I'm gonna go Mountain Hawks as well. Yeah.
Okay, love it.
12:30, Sacred Heart, 3-4 on the road at Lafayette. Your Lafayette Leopards, Dan.
Come on.
Now a fringe top 25 team in the FCS. They are the top team in the others receiving votes category. So you win this one.
Yeah.
Against the Hardys, and maybe find your way into that top 25. I gotta go Yetis here. I'm gonna break my own rule.
A lot of people saying Sacred Heart, the Harvard of Fairfield, Connecticut.
Is that where it's at?
Yeah.
You didn't know that. You looked that up
17 seconds ago. I'm going Lafayette here, and I'm going Lafayette enormous. 51-19 Lafayette.
1 o'clock. It is the Battle of the Nellies here. Cornell at 1-3, Bucknell at 3-3. Bucknell playing host. I am going to go Bucknell.
I'm also going Bucknell in the Nell Classico.
Nell Classico.
That's pretty good, right?
I like that.
Yeah.
I do like that. And let's close things out. 1 p.m. Your Georgetown Hoyas away from Multisport Field, but still at 4-2.
Yeah.
On the road against the Colgate Gators, who are at 1-5
just
this season.
Just where the Gators want them in
Home
Hamilton,
dog
New
of the
York.
week?
It's the home snake of the week, Ty.
Oh, boy.
Colgate.
We're getting our money's worth out of this.
23-20.
23-20. Lock it up. All right.
Who do you have in Nell Classico again? We both took Bucknell.
I'm going Bucknell.
Yeah, let's agree.
Ever since the fine people of Williamsport yelled at me, I have softened my stance on all things Bucknell.
I like that.
I did not like Bucknell when I visited it. I didn't.
Something happened on that trip, on that official visit.
We'll
get to the bottom of it on a bonus show.
Don't want to talk about it. It's a big, beautiful campus up on a hill.
Oh, my God.
This wasn't.
What happened?
Wasn't for me. No.
Something gone wrong.
Different podcasts that I won't put my name on. Okay?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Dungeon gone wrong. All right.
Dan, fun episode. Week 8 looks like it's going to be a banger. We will see in due time if it is, in fact, a snake in the toilet Saturday. Give me that sound just one more time. For the
I
people
thought you'd
at
never
home.
ask.
Snake in the toilet. Take in the toilet.
For that guy over there, my good friend, Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildenbrand, thanks for downloading, for listening, for supporting, for playing along with our madness. Enjoy your college football week 8. We will talk to you all on Sunday. Stay solid.
Peace.